Hello there. If you're over 60, may I ask you something you might not have thought about? Do you still approach exercise like you're 30? Simply because you feel younger than your age, it's a beautiful thing to feel that way. But here's the part. No one tells you. You might not survive another workout like that. I'm not saying this to frighten you, I'm saying it because I care. I've spent over 25 years as a heart specialist watching strong, independent seniors walk into my clinic smiling only to walk out with a diagnosis they never saw coming. Not because they sat too long, not because they ate the wrong things, but because the very exercises they believed were good for the heart quietly pushed it past the edge. So before we go any further, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you find these insights meaningful. Then tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are and where are you listening from? I love knowing who I'm talking to in this little global circle of care. Now get comfortable. Turn on a small fan for that soft, steady hum. Breathe slowly, and let's begin today's journey. Common exercises could be harming your heart. 1. The hidden danger of high-intensity workouts. Let's begin with the first and often most dangerous mistake: high-intensity workouts. You've probably heard of HIIT, high-intensity interval training, short bursts of intense exercise followed by brief rest. It's trendy, it's everywhere, and yes, it works. For younger bodies. But after 60, HIIT is like playing with fire using thinning skin. You see, after a certain age, your heart becomes more vulnerable, not less capable, but less forgiving. Stiffer arteries, reduced recovery time, a more fragile electrical system, and HIIT by design floods the heart with sudden demands, rapid beats, high-pressure forced oxygen intake. In a young athlete, that builds endurance. In an older adult, it can trigger arrhythmias or dangerous spikes in blood pressure. Here's a story I'll never forget. Her name was Janet, 67, retired teacher, proud grandmother of 3. She joined an online HIIT challenge during the pandemic to stay fit while staying home. Day 1, fine. Day 2, sore but happy. Day 3. She blacked out after a jump squat and woke up to paramedics in her kitchen. The diagnosis: paroxysmal atrial fibrillation brought on by physical stress. I just wanted to keep up with my daughter, she told me later, tears in her eyes. That sentence has haunted me ever since. Because Janet wasn't weak. She was determined. But her heart, it needed a different kind of love. Let's go deeper for a moment. When you do HIIT at 30, your nervous system handles the adrenaline rush. Your blood vessels expand and contract with flexibility. Your heart adjusts and recovers. But at 60, 70, or beyond, that flexibility starts to fade. Your blood vessels become less elastic. Your recovery takes longer. And worst of all, you may not feel the damage until it's too late. This is what makes HIIT so dangerous for older adults. It doesn't always hurt in the moment. Sometimes it just chips away, quietly, subtly. Your heartbeat gets a little more irregular. You start feeling more tired after less movement. You shrug it off, calling it just aging, but inside your heart is waving a red flag. There's a growing public health debate around this. Some voices claim seniors must keep up the intensity, but clinical data and real-world outcomes often disagree. There's no prize for overexertion, just the risk of pushing your heart past its quiet threshold. And here's something quirky you might not expect. A study from a Swiss gerontology lab found that slow, repetitive motion like sweeping, gardening, or walking at a relaxed pace stimulated heart rate variability more effectively in older adults than high-impact training. Let that sink in. The kind of movement your grandmother did naturally is what your heart might love the most right now. You don't have to stop exercising, but you do need to change how you define effort. Try this instead. A gentle 20-minute walk every morning. 10 minutes of Tai Chi before lunch. Light swimming in a warm pool. Not only are these movements easier on your joints, but they also stabilize your heart rhythm rather than shock it. And here's one of my favorite patient quotes. Mr. Raymond, age 73, once told me, "Doctor, I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore. I'm trying to be here longer." He laughed as he said it, and so did I. but the wisdom stuck. So if you're someone who's been pushing, sweating, gasping to keep up, maybe it's time to stop asking, am I doing enough, and start asking, is this helping me heal? Because healing, gentle, intentional healing is what your heart is truly craving right now. 2. How crunches and heavy lifting raise blood pressure. There's a certain pride in lifting something heavy, especially after 60. It tells the world, I've still got it. And maybe you do. But what your heart doesn't have is the same tolerance for internal pressure that it once did. That's the secret most people never learn until it's too late. You see, strength training is important. Muscle mass helps prevent falls, maintains mobility, and supports a longer, more independent life. But not all strength exercises are created equal. And when it comes to crunches, sit-ups, or heavy lifting, the risk isn't always in the weight itself. It's in what happens inside your body when you strain. Let me tell you about Arthur. He was 72 and proud of his home gym. Every Tuesday, he did 3 sets of crunches, followed by lifting a 40-pound dumbbell overhead. Nothing extreme, at least, not for his younger self, but one day mid-lift he paused, blinked hard, and collapsed. When they brought him to the ER, his blood pressure was 220/115. His heart had gone into a stress rhythm trying to manage the sudden internal surge caused not by the dumbbell, but by the act of pushing through the strain. What Arthur didn't know, and what many still don't, is that moves like crunches and overhead lifts create a spike in thoracic and abdominal pressure. This pressure compresses your internal organs and forces your heart to beat harder against a smaller space. It's like asking a balloon to expand inside a box it can't. So it strains, and sometimes it breaks. This phenomenon is medically known as the Valsalva effect. It's when you hold your breath and push like during a crunch or lift, and the pressure inside your chest skyrockets. Young hearts recover, but older hearts, they respond with arrhythmias, temporary fainting, or even worse. Now, here's a strange but true story. A 2015 study from Germany found that participants over 65 who performed sit-ups without breathing correctly experienced twice the risk of transient ischemic attacks, mini-strokes, compared to those who focused on slow, breath-based movements. Let that sink in. You might think, but I've done this my whole life. Yes. But the body you live in today isn't the one from 1994, and just like you wouldn't drive a vintage car at top speed down a mountain road, you shouldn't demand your aging heart handle peak strain without warning. There's also a visual trick your brain plays on you. You see progress with lifting more reps, more weight, tighter core, but you don't see the tiny tears forming in the heart's rhythm. You don't feel the spike in blood pressure until the dizziness hits. The debate among fitness experts is ongoing. Some insist no pain, no gain is timeless. But increasingly, cardiologists are pushing back, arguing for no strain, all gain instead. So what should you do? Modify. Don't quit. Trade crunches for standing core twists with resistance bands. Swap heavy dumbbells for light hand weights or kettlebells under 10 pounds. Practice breathing out as you exert, not holding your breath. One of my patients, Linda, age 69, used to love lifting heavy kettlebells. After a scare involving chest pain mid-squat, she shifted to resistance bands and water-based strength training. It's not as flashy, she told me, but I sleep better. My blood pressure is stable, and I haven't felt lightheaded in months. And sometimes that's the truth nobody advertises. It's not about what looks strong. It's about what feels steady. You don't have to stop building strength. You just have to stop punishing your heart in the process. Because your heart is not a machine. It's a story you've been writing for decades. Let's not end that story early because of a misunderstanding about what it means to be fit. Listen closely the next time you're straining through a movement. If your breath catches, if you feel heat behind your eyes, if something inside clenches and protests, that's not weakness. That's wisdom trying to speak. Give it the microphone. 3. Why weather could be more dangerous than you think. Let's step away from gyms for a moment. Imagine it's early morning. The sun's just beginning to rise. You step outside for your usual walk shoes, tied jacket, zipped heart full of motivation. It's 48 degrees out, brisk but not unbearable. You start moving feeling good. Until about 10 minutes in, you feel a strange tightness in your chest. Not pain exactly, but something isn't right. You slow down, hoping it'll pass. But what you don't realize is that your heart is already fighting a silent battle with the weather. Yes, the temperature outside can be just as important to your heart as the exercise you're doing. As we age, our body's ability to regulate temperature becomes less efficient. Our blood vessels don't expand and contract as easily. The heart, once flexible and fast to adjust, now reacts more slowly, which means that cold weather causes blood vessels to constrict, and when that happens, your blood pressure rises. For a heart already dealing with stiff arteries or hidden blockages, that's a recipe for overload. I once treated a 74-year-old man named Carl. He had no known heart problems, just a history of mild hypertension. One winter morning, he shoveled snow for 15 minutes and collapsed on his porch. It wasn't the effort that took him down. It was the combination of cold air, sudden movement, and the fact that his heart was pumping against squeezed, narrowed vessels. The cold had made his body into a pressure cooker, and he never saw it coming. Heat can be just as cruel. A hot day might feel inviting for a walk, especially after a long winter, but when your body overheats, it tries to cool you down. Your heart speeds up, blood vessels dilate, sweat pours, but as you sweat, you dehydrate. And when you dehydrate, blood volume decreases, making your heart work even harder to circulate what little fluid it has left. The strangest part, most people don't feel it happening. They think they're just tired, maybe a little thirsty, but their heart is straining beneath the surface like a quiet motor running out of oil. And then there are the wild temperature swings. You dress for spring, but by mid-walk, summer heat kicks in. Or it's sunny at 3 p.m. But by 5, the wind picks up and your core temperature drops. Your body doesn't have time to adjust. And guess who suffers first? That's right, your heart. There's a public health gap here that still shocks me. Most exercise guidelines talk about form, frequency, or duration, but few ever mention the weather. That's changing slowly, but it's still not talked about enough in fitness culture, which loves to glamorize no excuses and get outside no matter what. But here's your permission. Excuses are wisdom in disguise. If it's too cold, don't go. If it's too hot, wait. If the air feels sharp or sticky, trust that feeling. Indoor walking tracks, heated community pools, mall laps, or simply marching in place beside an open window. These are all good alternatives. There's something oddly beautiful about watching a senior choose gentleness over grit. It's the opposite of what we've been taught, but it's exactly what the body needs at this stage in life. Let me share something quirky. A 2021 study in Denmark found that older adults who exercised indoors with calming music and stable room temperatures had lower cortisol levels and more consistent heart rhythms than those who did the same routine outside, even when weather was mild. Just imagine that the same movement, different environment, and dramatically safer outcomes. One of my patients laughed and said, "So what you're saying is I should walk laps in Target?" Honestly, yes, if it keeps your heart safe, that's a 5-star solution. Don't underestimate what your environment is asking your body to do. The weather isn't just scenery, it's pressure. And pressure, when ignored, becomes danger. Next time you feel the urge to push through just a little cold or a little heat, ask yourself, is this walk helping me heal or forcing my heart to fight? Because the bravest thing you can do after 60 isn't walking through all weather. It's knowing which weather to walk away from. 4. Fast movements. Slow reflexes and risky reactions. Now let's shift from temperature to tempo. Specifically, the speed of your movement. There's something incredibly tempting about fast-paced workouts. They feel youthful, energizing, and maybe even a little defiant, like you're proving time hasn't caught up with you just yet. A few jumping jacks, a light jog, maybe a little dance session in your living room to 80s hits. All in good fun, right? But what if I told you that those fast, jarring motions, especially the ones that involve sudden twists, leaps, or direction changes, are among the leading hidden causes of injury and heart strain in people over 60? Here's the truth. After a certain age, speed becomes more dangerous than impressive. Let me paint you a picture. Sandra, 66. joined a community aerobics class with younger women. For the first few sessions, she kept up beautifully, but during one routine involving side shuffles and quick step touches, she lost her balance, twisted her ankle, and hit the floor hard. She didn't break anything, but she also didn't realize until later that her heart had raced erratically for over 20 minutes after the fall. Not from fear, from shock. You see, the aging nervous system doesn't respond like it used to. Reaction time slows down. Balance becomes more fragile. And every sudden movement confuses the internal system, especially the heart. Here's the scary part: even if your muscles feel fine, your cardiovascular system may be quietly panicking. Each leap or pivot causes abrupt shifts in blood flow. The heart has to recalibrate in a split second, dilating vessels here, constricting them there. And if you're already dealing with high blood pressure or a weakened rhythm, that single step ball change move could send your heart into a spin. Here's a strange little detail. A 2018 research team from South Korea studied seniors performing fast-paced cardio dance routines. They found that participants over 65 experienced more heart rate variability and post-exercise dizziness, not because the moves were inherently dangerous, but because the sequence of speed, turn, and impact created internal chaos their systems couldn't organize fast enough. The study called it coordinated cardiovascular confusion. I call it the storm behind the smile. Now let's talk about something no one wants to admit. Pride. It sneaks in quietly. I don't want to be the slow one. Or worse, I don't want to look old. So you push, you rush, you try to match the rhythm of younger peers. But movement at this age isn't about keeping up. It's about staying upright physically and emotionally. And here's a quiet reminder from one of my dearest patients, Elsie. She's 74 and leads a Tai Chi class in her backyard. She once told me, "I don't move fast. I move like I'm watering flowers." That's it. That's the wisdom. Because there is something profoundly healing about slowing down. Every gentle bend, each conscious breath, every slow step tells your heart, you're safe, you're supported, you're loved. Compare that to burpees. Jumping up, slamming down knees, crashing blood racing breath, panicking. For what bragging rights? You don't need to perform to be powerful, and you certainly don't need to leap to be alive. If you love movement, and I hope you do, try replacing fast routines with chair yoga, slow guided dance, balance training with a handrail, gentle stretching with music. And remember, when you're in motion, your body is speaking to your heart. It says, "Thank you for not rushing me." There's a silent nobility in slowing down, a grace in being deliberate, and a kind of longevity that can't be found in sprinting, but blooms in stillness. Because real energy after 60 isn't about speed, it's about sustainability. So the next time you're tempted to jump, twist, and race, ask yourself, is this feeding my heart or just feeding my ego? Your heart already knows the answer. 5. Late night exercise and the lost healing of sleep. Let's talk about something that doesn't seem like a big deal at first: what time you exercise. You've had a full day, dinner's done, the dishes are put away, the house has finally gone quiet. And you think to yourself, now's a good time for a quick walk around the block, or maybe a little light cardio before bed. Seems harmless, right? But for your heart, especially after 60, that decision might be doing more harm than you think. Here's why. As we age, our sleep patterns naturally become more fragile. The body's ability to fall into deep restorative rest becomes more delicate. The nervous system, once resilient and flexible, now becomes more sensitive to late-day stimulation, especially physical stimulation. When you exercise too close to bedtime, you raise your core body temperature. You elevate your heart rate. You activate the sympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for alertness, focus, and adrenaline. In other words, you tell your body, wake up, just when it's preparing to wind down. I once had a patient named Leon. He was 71, newly retired, and had started doing short 20-minute treadmill sessions around 9:30 p.m. Because in his words, "It's the only quiet time I've got." After a few weeks, he noticed something odd. He was waking up exhausted even though he'd slept 7 hours. When we checked his vitals, we saw elevated overnight heart rate, irregular rhythm episodes between 2 and 4 a.m., and increased cortisol levels, all classic signs of sleep disruption caused by late-night exertion. The irony, Leon thought he was helping his heart, but what he was really doing was denying it the most powerful tool it has to repair itself: sleep. You see, during deep sleep, your body releases growth hormones, repairs cellular damage, reduces inflammation, and restores heart rhythm balance. It's like a nightly tune-up for your engine. But that only happens when you allow your nervous system to fully shut down. Late-night workouts keep that engine humming subtly but persistently. And here's a quirky science fact. In 2022, researchers at a sleep clinic in Canada found that even 15 minutes of moderate intensity exercise done after 8:30 p.m. delayed the onset of deep sleep by over an hour in participants over 65. The body stayed on guard far longer than in younger adults. Now I know what you might be thinking, but that's when I have time. And I get it. Life is full. Evening might be the quietest part of your day. But I want you to think of it this way: is movement still healthy if it steals from your heart's recovery? There's a better way. If you must move in the evening, try gentle stretches with soft music, slow walking around the house barefoot if safe, breath work, or seated mobility exercises. These can help your body transition without shocking your system. Even better, shift your workouts to the morning or early afternoon. That's when your cortisol levels naturally rise. That's when your metabolism is higher. That's when your body is ready to move. And at night, let your movement soften. Let your breath slow. Let your heart rest. One of my favorite quotes comes from a Buddhist teacher who said, "At night, the body doesn't need to chase the day. It needs to return to the quiet village of the heart." So as we close out this conversation, I want to whisper something to you gently. Your heart has been there for you every second of your life. It has loved you, protected you, carried you. Now it needs your protection in return. Let your evening be sacred. Let sleep become your medicine. Let rest be your resistance against the chaos of the world. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is close your eyes and simply let go. Let's take a deep breath together and look back at what we've explored. If you're over 60, your heart is no longer the same heart that carried you through youth. It's wiser, more vulnerable, and deserving of a different kind of care. The 5 exercises we covered today, high-intensity workouts, core crunches, and heavy lifting exercising in extreme weather, fast-paced movements, and late-night exercise, aren't bad by nature. But they can quietly work against an aging heart, sometimes causing damage before you even feel it. We also learned the deeper truth: exercise isn't just about doing more, it's about doing what heals you. Gentle walks, Tai Chi, resistance bands, warm water stretches, movement that's rhythmic, calming, and kind to the heart. Your heart doesn't need to prove anything. It just wants to be heard, to be understood, to be protected. So if you've made it this far, thank you. That means you care. Not just about living longer, but about living wiser. I invite you now to carry these lessons not with fear, but with quiet confidence. Trust your body. Listen to its whispers. Respect its rhythms. And above all, give it the rest it's earned. You are not too old. It is not too late. And the smallest change you make today may add more peace, strength, and years to your life than you ever imagined. Now rest gently. You've done enough today. Your heart is safe, your breath is steady, and the quiet is yours.